Hello.
Hi.
Kayla Lords.
John Brownstone.
Of Living BDSM, where we help kinksters like you have happy, healthy power exchange relationships. We're back once again to answer another question. This time from a kinkster who opened up the relationship and now has closed the relationship and is trying to get back to, air quote, normal. Okay, this week's question is sort of short and sweet, but I think there's a lot being said here. Okay, here we go. My sub and I negotiated that we would have a semi-open relationship. However, some friends who have a full open relationship are going through things. Not my story to tell about them, however, I'm more or less playing peacemaker with them, and it's taken a toll on the mental health for both of us. So I kind of renegotiated that we should go back to being closed off for a while so we could focus on us and get back to our regular selves. Basically, I'm just asking if you have any tips for us to get back to almost normal. I know it'll take time, but I just don't know how to get there.
Well, you know what? The fact that they state right off the fact that their mental health was taking a hit because they're, playing peacemaker with this other couple, that speaks volumes. Stepping back to take care of your mental health, that should be a priority.
Right. You being peacemaker for another couple to the detriment of your own mental health and your relationship, probably not a great idea. No. So, you need to step back. Tips to do it. You and your partner need to talk. Okay. You need to talk and let them know how you're feeling about this and what is going on. Yes, it's hard to do. We just had a conversation the other night, kind of hard to let my feelings out, So it's not uncommon, but it does need to be done. When you open a relationship and things start happening that are causing strife or disconnects in your relationship, something's wrong. We all kind of need to be there for our friends and for our people. In something like this, when you open up a relationship, it shouldn't be to make things more difficult, but to make things a little more fun, maybe, or more satisfying based on your needs,
right.
Or something that is beneficial ideally to somebody.
Yeah. But, for it to be causing this kind of strife, within yourself and between your partner, that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. What say you?
So I'm not gonna give a tip just yet. I do have tips because it is not uncommon for life to screw up your power exchange, and you'd have to kind of figure out how to get back to center and air quote normal again. The thing I want to fall back on, because it's gonna hinder things if it isn't handled correctly, is you say that you renegotiated closing the relationship off again because of the way I'm understanding this is just friends and not somebody you were in a relationship with, and that was causing your mental health. I want you to do a check-in with your partner, because did they agree to that because they genuinely wanted to agree to that? Or did they turn off another relationship that meant something to them to keep you happy and I'm going to, I think, probably give a little tough love, and I'm trying to be empathetic. A thing that was not central to your relationship with your current partner was affecting your relationship, and I haven't heard you say, I'm taking a step back from these friends so I can take care of myself and my relationship. I'm hearing you say, I closed off something that potentially me and or my partner really wanted. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do that. JB and I have had to kind of have that conversation, and it's not been that we just stopped being non-monogamous. It's more like he stopped pursuing folks or keeping himself open to the idea of, somebody coming into his life. And it was more of that, and not we shut down a whole other thing that was going on outside of this situation. So just, if you didn't do it already, or if you think there might have been a possibility that your partner allowed that renegotiation under any sort of duress, I want you to do a check-in, because if they are unhappy with what you renegotiated in the way you say it here, that's going to cause more problems further down, and it's going to be harder to get back to normal. So make sure y'all are at the same place, right? Make sure you're both not satisfied with your relationship. You wouldn't have asked for tips if you were satisfied, but that you're happy to be at this place where you're rebuilding each other is what I would say there. And it may be that you already know that and it was fine and it was a no big deal. But when one partner says, I negotiated something, my first thought is, but how did the other partner feel? So if you don't know, or you think you know, but you're not getting the right vibe, I'm just saying do a check-in, okay?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Because you were going through a thing, so you needed to make changes. Fair. How did that impact your partner? That's the thing to double check on if you don't know. I completely agree with you. Like, just the thing that's causing the mental health problem, to the extent that you possibly can, you need to back away because now your relationship has suffered. That relationship, I mean, I'm assuming is holding more importance, right? Or you wouldn't be trying to work on it. Now, the thing to getting back to normal, there's going to be a lot of communication because you do need to talk about not just how you're feeling, which, you know, depending on, you know, you say my sub, so I'm assuming you are the dom. Doms don't always do well with talking about their feelings, and it can be really difficult, and it can be hard to be vulnerable, and that's an important thing to do. At the same time, you need to spend time listening to your partner on what's going on with them, how they're feeling about the disconnect that you have had, or the change from monogamous to non-monogamous back to monogamous. They may have their own feelings. So it's a back and forth thing of just hearing each other out. You know, you talk about how not that long ago you needed to do that, and I, as usual, had to just yank it out of you. It doesn't look like submission from the outside, but you know, I'm being of service.
True.
And the thing is you opening up gave room in the conversation for us to kind of both talk. And at the end of it, nothing was different, nothing was solved, but we both felt better because the release of those pent up emotions can. It's like a release valve of the pressure, right? You're not holding it within yourself all alone. You've put it out there into the world. You've hopefully gotten some empathy back from a partner. You may have heard yourself say it and go, oh my gosh, I'm holding on to this thing and it isn't that big. It isn't that important. But because you've internalized it, it feels bigger and more important. Or it is as big and important as you knew it to be, but saying it and knowing that you're now not alone in it means you're not carrying the weight of it alone. So get ready for lots of conversation. This is also a good time when you start making shifts in your relationship and your dynamic because of things that are happening kind of outside to you. This can be a great time to fix things that weren't great to begin with. And I don't necessarily mean like your relationship was on the rocks, now we're going to make it better, but more like, were there things that could have been done better? Were there things in your power exchange where you did it because you'd been doing it for forever, not because it really had any meaning to you? This can be a time to go, we don't have to do exactly what we were doing before. Right. We can take what worked really well before, we were each mutually excited about or satisfied with or happy to do, and let the rest fall away. Because the big tip for, quote, getting back to normal is to start really slow and small. Now, the pace at which you go from slow and small to a lot more depends on the situation, depends on both of y'all, depends on how you're feeling, depends on whether, if your mental health is able to continue to improve as the things shift around in the other parts of your life, then you can do more. And if it's more of a very non-linear, curvy, squiggle line, more of progression, which is more typical, you may start slow and small, pick up some speed, add a few things, stop there for a while, maybe even pull back, add more things. And it's a 2 steps forward, 1 step back situation sometimes. But if you start slow and small, then you get to have the memory come back to you of, wait, this feels good. We enjoy this with one another. It's almost a little bit of muscle memory of, oh, we haven't done this in a while, or we haven't done this with like intentionally for a while, and now we are, and we're talking about it, and we're checking in with each other, and that's right, I remember, this feels good. Sometimes we anticipate a thing to be harder than it actually is.
Yep.
And oftentimes the first step of starting again is the hardest. And once you get past that and you just get started, momentum carries you forward, right? And if you start slow and small, then you pick the thing you both mutually absolutely adore and probably miss, right? You're trying to get back to normal. What haven't you been doing that you both miss? If it were JB and myself, it is either going to be impact play, like deep impact play, or it's probably going to be him calling me names and like yanking me around by like my hair, right? Like there's certain things that are gonna instantly connect us,
right?
Because we mutually like them. When they happen, we're very happy. They can be done in very short bursts sometimes,
and those things are the core,
right,
of our DS.
Right, exactly. So that's my tip for quote getting back to normal, but also, mysterious third thing, I guess. Do you have to get back to normal? Was normal working really well, or is it time to, again, mutually, if this works for both of you, just reconfigure things? Yeah, this is a good time for a shift if a shift is what's needed, right? Anytime can be a good time for a shift, but man, when you're like, we got to go back to building blocks. We got to like reconnect again and get intimate with one another again. And I don't just mean fuckery. I mean like,
it's a good time to be introspective.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But the very first thing, I agree with you. Withdraw yourself from this thing that's screwing up your mental health, right? Can you pass it off to another friend? Can you just tell your friends, I care about you deeply. I want to be here for you, but it's now wrecking me and my relationship, and I have to focus on that, right?
Right.
And then after that, do a level set. Make sure you and your partner are on the same page. That might be a hard conversation. Hopefully your partner feels secure enough to tell you exactly how they feel, so you'll know y'all are on the same page. Yeah. But that's the thing I would double check on.
I would kind of look out, they don't really say what these friends, kind of are to them, how they fit into all this. If they're going to step back, which I think is a good move, understand that, depending on what the relationship is or was with them, you will very possibly go through something what feels like a breakup.
Could be. Absolutely.
And that is something to be aware of going forward.
And if, you are so deep in other people's problems that you care about them and you're in so deep, it is messing you up. That's on some levels, it's commendable that you care about these people. You want to help them. You want to maybe, reduce friction or reduce the problems that exist, or, be supportive or whatever it is. And the thing is yes, but also we have to put our own oxygen mask on first. And you are not a bad person for taking care of yourself and not automatically taking care of others. Okay. Ideally, if these are folks that were worth it enough to put yourself through this, they will care about you enough to go, I get it, right? I get it. And I hope they are. That's not always true, but I hope for your sake they are, for you to have gone through this.
What you want to watch out for too, hopefully, everybody's stepping back, they can get their things sorted and whatnot. But, if you try to go back into this with these people and the same type of thing starts happening, then you kind of gotta make a tough decision then at that point, to step back completely. Absolutely. Because you don't want to keep repeating the cycle.
No, especially if it keeps harming the relationship that you have that you want to maintain with your partner, right? I think it is understandable for sometimes, JB is much more social than I am. He has more friends. So that means he tends to see a little bit more drama, a little bit more strife, a little bit more stuff than I see. Because I'm over here in my house, in my cozy, comfy couch and clothes by my damn self.
In your little corner.
So there are times JB's going through something that doesn't have anything to do with us. And so what I try to be is supportive and empathetic. And what do you need from me to help you while you go through this thing with a friend, or this thing with, something going on in your part of the community that I don't really touch, right? But also it is kind of my job to go, hey, I get this is important to you. And when it's important to you, it's important to me. But this is negatively impacting us now, right? And if you have to keep going back and forth like that with your partner, that's not fair to your partner, that's not fair to you. And I truly think good friends don't want you to do that.
No.
Because you don't help anybody by breaking yourself on the rocks of other people's, interpersonal problems. Not to your own detriment, not to the detriment of your relationships. Right? You still have to live in this world and exist as a person, even with people you care about going through something that you can't change and probably can't control. Right? So focus on, when it comes to these intimate relationships, who and what you can control. You can control you and what you do and what you choose to focus on.
And I just want to add one more little caveat to all this. When Kayla and I first decided to open our relationship, we talked about it for quite a while before, anybody did anything. And, in all that talking, we kind of said, what are we looking at here? What does this potentially look like? What are the boundaries, the this, that? And we thought we had everything covered in the beginning, until the first time I went out on a date with someone.
You learn a lot about yourself the first time your partner goes off like that.
And what ended up happening, we had to do a step back and kind of renegotiate things and not really, we didn't have to step back ourselves that time, but we kind of needed to, rework some things.
Absolutely, because the first time you went off and did that, like I say, I learned some things about how I was going to react. And then I had to figure out what was stuff that I needed to deal with on my own and what was stuff that I could bring to you and we could talk about. So that is true in any facet of a relationship. So just kind of keep that in mind. You will make these plans to get back to normal. You will try to enact it, and then something might not feel right or work, and so you just talk about it again.
So, going forward with this may be a good time for you to, again, like I said earlier, be a little introspective, but, look at the situation and the things that happened, talk about them with your partners, and maybe you need to set some rules or boundaries,
right?
To kind of, waylay that in the future.
Right. No, I agree. So, reduce what is putting the strain on your mental health to the best of your ability. Make sure you're on the same page with your partner, and then start slow and small with whatever getting back to normal is, and reassess if we want to go back to it, try to go back to what you had before, or if this is a good time to sort of make a shift. I think those would be our tips for your situation. Okay, if you have been through anything like this, or hearing the question brought up some thoughts for you, feel free to share those down below. We all have different ways of looking at these kinds of things, and we know that what we would do and what we would do might be completely different than what you would do.
True.
So we can all learn from one another. If you enjoyed this, we love a thumbs up. If you like it enough to want to come back for more, please consider subscribing.
And go ahead and ring that bell so you get notification of new content.
Just do what Daddy says. And if you really like what we do, want to help us do more of it, get access to our Discord server, exclusive content, stuff like that, join us on Patreon, patreon.com/KaylaLords, or the link is down below.